And I raise this Memorex. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Got two guests here tonight. I know we're starting a bit late and we're trying to resolve a few issues, so thank you all for coming and putting up with us. My name is Giles, and I'm your Toastmaster for the evening. And tonight we have two guests, Molly and Darlene. I got it right. All right, thank you. We're gonna ask you a question at the end of the meeting, so y'all just hang around. Don't leave us. Okay, tonight's theme is going to be what have we learned, or I guess what have I learned? And what I'm talking about is we've spent the last 2 years of our lives coping with COVID, coping with shut-ins, coping with business closures, coping with wearing masks all over the place, things like that. And I just thought I'd throw out a couple of observations on what I have learned, and we're going to find out maybe what you've learned. So let's start with the first thing, is that I found out that I can pretty much stay inside with a roommate in 680 square feet for 2 weeks without going out much. And both of us are still alive. And that the first 2 weeks, I mean, I went up to work. I work in healthcare. So I was one of those, what do they call those people that, essential employees. I even had a letter, because you know that first couple of weeks that we started, the police were stopping people out running around. But I had a letter from the hospital saying I'm an essential worker, leave me alone. Nobody ever stopped me. Because like when I turned 18 and now could legally drink, I went off beer and nobody bothered to check. I mean, what fun is that? You have to be able to prove something. But most of the time now, I've spent the last 2 years working from home. Now, and probably about the last 6 months, I've started going into the office 1 day a week. And what I have learned that even though the commute from my bed to the desk, which is about 3 feet, is really wonderful, and you don't ever get aggravated in traffic, it's still kind of boring. And it's like I get up, this is something I do. I go to work, I was at work yesterday, and I said, I do this all the time with my coworkers. It's like, is it time to go home yet? It's like I went out and told my roommate that I was time to go home yet. It's like, oh, never mind, I am at home. Is it time to get off work yet? It's like, I was tired of it. So working from home is great, but it also gets kind of boring. So the 1 day a week I go into the office is usually kind of a lot of fun, and I don't get a lot of work accomplished unless a lot of work comes through my board. Otherwise, I visit with my friends that I haven't seen since the last week. What else what else have I learned through this? I've learned that Prime Video is a wonderful thing. If I didn't have tons of movie I could watch for free, I'd be in the poorhouse probably now. But I've also learned that while Prime Video has some good shows and some good movies, they have a lot of mediocre movies and a lot of crap. And it's like, oh, can't watch that. So it's something to learn. I learned that. Now we've watched everything on Prime Video that's worth watching. I have Apple TV. We've watched a lot of that. I've gone back to some of the old Disney shows. I actually do like the old Disney shows from way back when, before y'all were born. And some of those really old Disney shows are great. All right, now I'd like to go on, and we're going to talk about our duty holders tonight and what their jobs are. And then we'll go back to a few more things that I've learned. So tonight, our duty holders for this evening, we're going to start with timer, and that's going to be me tonight. Just got to make it. Oh. During the meeting, there are times that we have timed meetings, like prepared speeches. When you speak, you need to speak in a lot of amount of time. So you're going to watch me, and I'm going to have flags up here. When you meet your minimum time, you'll see the green flag. When you say some medium time, you're going to have a yellow flag. And when you see the red flag go up, that means you've met your time and you need to wrap up. We allow 30-second leeway on the back side. So be sure, and when you see the red flag, that it's time to wrap it up. We also have table topics. Table topics, we speak for 1 to 2 minutes. So you see the green at 1, yellow at 1.5, and red at 2. Wrap it up. You see this, got 30 seconds there. Evaluator tonight, we're going to do a round robin. So we will not have an actual evaluator, but they're 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah. So it'd be 2, 2.5, and 3. At times when called upon by myself or the general evaluator or the table topics manager, I will tell them the timing of who I took. Now, our next speaker, our next duty holder for this evening is going to be Justin, and he's our grammarian. So Justin, will you explain the grammarian's job?
Yes. So I'm the grammarian. I'm looking for any interesting words, phrases, also any bad grammar as well. Word of the day today is concierge. Concierge.
We're not camera.
Oh, well. Never mind. Okay, so concierge, what it means is a usual multilingual hotel staff member who holds luggage and mail, makes reservations and arrangements for tours. For example, in any great European hotel, the most important figure with whom clients deal with directly is the concierge.
Our next duty holder this evening is going to be our vote counter. Our vote counter is Adelita. So will you explain what the vote counter does, please?
Hello, I'm actually unprepared, but I am the vote counter. And after the big 3 table topics and generally the evaluators, I'll be taking everyone's votes. Thank you.
Our next duty holder for this evening is going to be Dagan, who is our odd counter. And so you tell us about the odd counter's duties. So.
With all count, be looking for those crutch words like the us, those, you know, the filler words, bring up pauses, long pauses. We're looking for those. When I do hear one, hopefully I'll be on time and put that to know that you committed one of those crimes of crutch word. But I will not do it during the prepared speech. Anybody else are getting, of course, at the end of the meeting, I'll give my report. Back to you, Toastmasters.
Our last duty holder for this evening is our posture monitor, Mr. Rob Giles.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As posture monitor, I will be looking for any posture that may be distracting from what you're trying to say and present. I'll also be looking for any good gestures that might enhance what you're saying as well. If I see something that is distracting, hopefully I will remember to ring the bell. If you hear that bell while you're up here speaking, that means that you've done one of few things. The most common is having your hands together, wringing your hands, holding the hair. Basically, that's done when you're nervous or you don't know what to say. The default posture is to have your hands down by your sides. This helps for when you are going to use gestures, they become a little bit more profound. So if you use your gestures properly, then they work. But if you use them, it might be distracting if they're not done well. A couple of others that might be is fiddling with your clothes, your hair, playing with your glasses, putting your hands in your pockets, putting your hands down here, back behind here. Anything that might make the audience look away or think away from your actual presentation. I will keep notes throughout the meeting, and I will give a report when called upon by the general evaluator. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
A few of the things I've learned is that I can still read people's faces even though I can only see There's much of it. You can still tell when people smile, you can still, when people are mad, especially me. Most people get it in the eyes, always in the booth. Okay, but you can still, and you know, the more we've had to go with our mask and everything, the more we have learned to read people's expressions, even though all you see is their eyes. You know, in the old silent movies, they always said that everybody works and the eyes are what make you understand what's going on. And I think it actually is true. I've learned that Amazon is still one of my favorite things because I could still shop even when the stores were closed. So I got on Amazon. Ooh, they'll bring it here in a day or so. Cool. I've learned, this one I learned just the other day, and maybe a little disgusting, but I've learned that drinking urine cures COVID. It must be true. It's on the internet. 4 million people have looked at it. I cannot believe that people will listen to Bob on the internet who doesn't know anything over doctors and anybody else. It's like, what's wrong with America today? Does anybody have any common sense anymore? So I hope nobody's drinking their urine. Maybe they're just watching it because it's entertaining. But I think it's just crazy. Now, to the really important stuff. We have one prepared speech tonight, and that is going to be Rob Giles. And Rob is going to be doing a 5 to 7 minute speech. What is your pathway?
I don't know which pathway I'm doing, but it's,
Okay.
the project is persuasive speaking.
Okay. So doing a persuasive speaking module is going to be Rob Giles, 5 to 7 minutes for the timer. Oh, that's me. Theme is on doubt, Rob Giles. Rob Giles is on doubt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members, guests. Have you ever had problems sleeping? I would suspect that at least everybody has had at least one night in their life where they had a hard time falling asleep. But there are people who have ongoing problems as far as sleeping is concerned. And some of those people, a large portion of that group that has a hard time often is an older section of our population. As we grow old, we seem to have more problems with sleep. Tonight, I want to discuss with you some of those issues, as well as some things that perhaps people that you know that are older might be able to do to help to alleviate some of that. And perhaps it might even help you in your sleeping habits. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that as you get older, you produce less hormones, less growth hormones, less melatonin. And what does that do? Well, that takes away from the deep sleep that you have every night. So that's one thing that happens when you get older. And as you're doing that, it gets older. One of the things that it does is it knocks off your circadian rhythm. It pushes it forward. And that's actually what's called a phase shift. So your sleep changes, you start to get tired earlier, and you wake up earlier. That's another thing that happens as you grow old. What happens from that? Well, a lot of times, if you're not getting the right amount of sleep and it's off, especially older, you may find during the day, you end up taking naps. And for all of us, maybe we don't take a whole lot of naps. Maybe every once in a blue moon, we might take one nap, right? Well, I'll tell you this, younger people, about 8% will take a nap. The older section of people, about 25%. So about 3 times from when you were younger. Now there's a whole exchange from when you're younger to when you're at that point where you're taking, where 25% of the people are taking naps. So that changes over time. But when you're talking about 60, 65 years old, you're taking naps. And what does that do? It's kind of a cyclical, symbiotic thing. You take the naps and it affects your sleep architecture. So what's the sleep architecture? Well, that's how we cycle through our sleep stages. And as you get older, because of all these things that I just mentioned, it throws things off. What happens is that you spend more time when you're sleeping at night in the light sleep stages, and you spend a shorter amount in the deep sleep, where you can get actual restful quality sleep. So these are some of the things that affect older people and affect some of us as well from occasion to occasion. But for the older section of people, that's one of the things that it affects. And there are a few things that can add to the problems in there. Things that we encounter throughout our lives as well, but it happens a little bit more frequently as we get older. One is pain, specifically chronic pain. And you may know that when you're in pain, you don't sleep well. You probably toss and turn a little bit more. And what does that do? It wakes you up. It keeps you doing things that maybe you don't want to do. Insomnia can cause problems. You can also have times where you have to get up and you have to go use the restroom, right? We hear a lot about that. There's commercials out there for men having to get up every 5 minutes to go use the bathroom. Well, that's all you're in this light sleep stage. And so you're more aware of all the things that your body needs to do. You're aware of the pain, you're aware of all these things, so it keeps you up. You don't get that long stretch of sleep. Sleep Foundation says that for people over 65, you should get 7 to 8 hours of nighttime sleep. And that's not to say that people, that are younger don't need that sleep, but from when you're born and as you grow, you actually do need less sleep as you go. But when you reach about 65 years old, then at that point, you're going to need sleep and you can't reduce it. A lot of people think, oh, I'm 67 years old, I only need 5 hours sleep. But that's not totally true. Other things that can affect it is RLS, which is restless leg syndrome. You can also have problems with, I had said, insomnia. You have problems with pain. There's RBD, which is failing to get into a deep sleep. And that's part of the problem that I spoke of earlier. So you have all these problems that compound all the things that I talked about with the circadian rhythm and all of those things. But all of these can be corrected. And that's what I'm here tonight to tell you, is that we can fix these things and we can help some of our friends and family perhaps fix these as well. What are some things that you can do to improve your sleep? One, exercise. Exercise can help you so that when you do go to sleep, you have a longer and deeper sleep. Get better quality sleep. Another thing is to have a regular schedule. Don't vary from this. Go to bed at the same time every night, get up at the same time. If you have some change in that, try to revert back to that. Another thing is to try to avoid drinking alcohol, having caffeine, or having even a large meal within about 4 hours of when you're going to go to sleep. And some of these things we kind of think of in our common knowledge, but if we actually enact those things and take advantage of those things, we can start to develop a pattern and a habit that can help us. And we can actually build that habit. And if you give it a try over a course of perhaps 2 to 4 weeks, you're probably going to find that you're feeling better throughout the day, that you've gotten you've got more energy, that you've gotten better restful sleep. So I encourage you to try some of these things out yourself. And if you know somebody who's a little bit older, see if they can maybe attempt to do some of these things as well to alleviate some of the issues that they have with sleep, so that they can feel better and perform better during the day. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, if it's an age thing, hang on, because I take a nap every day. When I get off work, I move that 4 foot back to the bed and I lay down for about an hour. But I've done that even when I drive home from work. I come home, get comfortable, I lay down, take a nap. I love my naps. So a couple other things I've learned. That my family is a big cruiser. For those of you who don't know, we go on annual cruises every year. I've learned that, and I'm not shocked, that a cruise is a petri dish for COVID because everybody's all jammed in together, isolated. I was actually on the Ebola cruise. So, you know, everybody knew, I knew the person that was there on the ship. I saw her, I knew who it was when the Ebola thing came out. It's like it was my hospital. They didn't tell anybody. Then I had to do direct patient care, so I was fine, but still, I was on the Ebola cruise, and they got all riled up about that whole thing. One more thing. Oh, it is now thoroughly been proved for all the people in the world that aren't preppers, when they mentioned COVID, toilet paper was going out the door faster than you could swing. It's like, I don't know what they're doing. They're hoarding stuff and toilet paper is the issue. Hey, go figure. I think there's something else I'd order for toilet paper. So now, oh, Rob, your time was 7 minutes and like 47 seconds. Big surprise, right? Anyway, now we love Rob Christoph. I'm gonna pay attention. Our next duty, our job for this evening, our portion of the meeting is going to be table topics, and our table topics host tonight is Mark Schroeder.
Thank you, John. This is table topics. Table topics, you can think of it as interview questions. I'm going to ask some questions and call on people at random. They're not really interview questions, of course, but they're the same sort of thing, something that you don't know what the question is going to be until I ask it. And then I'm going to call on you. You have 2 rules. Rule 1 to 2 minutes to do your answer. You have to make it to a minute. So you have to see the green card before you stop. You have until 2 minutes, and you actually have, you'll get the red card at 2, and you still have 30 seconds to wrap it up. Okay, so that's the timing on it. The second rule is you have to use the word of the day, which is concierge. Now I have to admit that's going to be a little bit of a challenge considering some of the questions, but that's what we're all here for, right? Let me start with, they're going to be theme related. I think I want to start with, again, under learning, nice kind of softball question. Tell me something that you learned, say during this last year. Could be job related, could be with regard to something social, could be whatever it is. I don't care whether it's a skill or a job or something you did around the house, whatever. Tell me something that you learned this last year. This question is going to go to Jess.
Thank you, Chapter Master Mark. What I learned this year, I definitely learned that I can sit on Zoom for hours and go through meetings. I've actually done 2 meetings at the same time. One laptop right here, one laptop right here. It's called multitasking. And I have my headset on right here with one ear out. Then I have a Bluetooth headset in right here. Our camera's off though. And they're asking a question in both meetings. So I'm going back and forth. Actually, I did this morning at 7:30, I had a meeting with my Scrum team. I'm a Scrum Master, which is an IT project manager. One team was asking me this about, okay, how do we create these stories, Justin? I'm like, okay, go through this. One team is doing a refinement meeting. I'm like, okay, do these stories like this, refine like in this way. I'm like going back and forth. Like, oh, okay, Justin. I'm like, oh crap, I'm talking right now. She asked me a question. So I finished talking, muted my mic, talked over there. Like, oh yeah, delete that story, that's fine. Really what I needed a concierge to get me out of here and travel, go to Europe, the Bahamas actually. The Bahamas, maybe Jamaica, have me, you know, lifeline iced tea. I need a nice vacation. But what I've learned is how important multitasking is, how important really taking breaks. Because I have meetings back to back to back. This morning I had meetings from 7:30 to 11. And I'm just not sitting in the meeting, I'm actually running this. I'm actually speaking. I'm like, okay, team, do this, team, do that. And what you really learn is you really have to take breaks for yourself. You can't burn yourself out. And that is why it's so important to have a concierge handy and go on vacation twice a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. And I certainly agree with you. It's, yeah, you got to take breaks. That's one of the things that I've kind of had to learn working from home. Used to get breaks all the time. I don't get breaks so much at home unless I give myself breaks. I have to do it, remember to do it. So this next question, talk about devil's advocate, because I was going to be asking this of somebody at home, and we can't do that at the moment. It is what it is. The question was going to be, does remote learning work? Clearly not tonight, at least not the way we planned. But does remote learning in general work? And what does it need to have in order for it to be effective for you? Adelita.
Well, does remote work from home? It actually does, because I was hired as full-time remote as a security analyst. And what I enjoyed about this job is that I can go anywhere in the United States and still work. Like if I wanted to go to Portland, stay at a hotel for the week, Monday through Friday, have a concierge handy, call them up, say, hey, what can I do? What's going on out there after work? That is what I enjoy about remote. But the con is, I don't like being at home sometimes. I'm at home all day. Sometimes when I get off work, I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the grocery store, even though I'm not gonna buy anything, but I'm just gonna go because it's my way of getting out. That's why I'm here today, because I was all day at home. And I was entertained by my son's daughter. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adelita. The next question is going to be a little bit tougher. There's skill and there's art. Tell me what the difference is between skill and art. And I think we all know that people can learn a skill. Is it possible to learn an art? Your opinion. David.
All right, is it possible? Let's go together, skill or art. So a skill, people can be born with I think, a natural session for a skill, not a session, but I can't remember the same thing about it, but kind of be born with the natural ability to do something. Like me, I like to work with wood. That's kind of a natural feel for it. Cutting wood and just measuring, and I just do it like really quick and knock something out really quick. For other people, it may take a little longer to do, but that woodworking could also be considered an art as well. Because you can make wonderful things, cutting certain ways and putting them together, staining them certain ways, decorating different ways. So it's a skill and an art. But when you come to, actually my other half, he paints, so that could be a skill and an art too. So I think some of these things are actually combined. But it's kind of natural. But something like me, I cannot paint or draw. I tried to, over time, as I got, the more I did it, growing up, I got a little better for it, but I was not a natural at it. But my other half was, so you put a paintbrush to a paper, it just knocks something out really quick. So, but for me, I can do it. Just takes practice. But the more you practice, the better you get, and eventually you can do it. And concierge is not the fitness stuff. I thought that's too hard to do. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, but people be born with a skill, but it's definitely harder to learn an art once you have a skill. If they're born with a skill, so like I said, it's combined. It can be more the same depending on what it is. Back to you, table talk master.
Thank you, David. All right, at this point, one of the things I'm going to do is open up questions to our guests if you would like one. You do not have to take one. We have some people who are willing to and some are not. It's fine if you don't want one. If you want one, put your hand up, and otherwise you can just do nothing and we won't call it. Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I do like a?
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll do my best.
We'll try to encourage you to start that out. A little bit.
All right, let's see. What do I want to give you? Well, I'll even give you a little bit of thinking. The question is going to be, what would you like to learn this year and why? And while you're thinking about it on your way up, I'll make a remark about the issue of skill versus art. I was in an art class at SMU, art history, basically, is what it was. And she made us go to museums and other places to copy paintings. And we started, of course, all the way back at the Renaissance and all the way through modern art, Jackson Pollock and all the other junk, as far as I'm concerned, people who have no skill whatsoever. But I digress. Anyway, my copying of that art changed very much during the class, of course, because during the Renaissance, I copied Michelangelo. And then I went to Monet, and everything started to be a little bit lighter and frothier. And then I go all the way to Jackson Pollock, and she's going, your style has really progressed. I said, my style did not progress at all. I'm Xerox. You told me to copy something very different. But that's an example of skill versus art. I would never make a good artist. I have the skill to copy and make a reliably good looking copy, but not art, not create from scratch. So, your question, what would you like to learn this year and why?
Hi, I'm Molly again. And something that I've been thinking a lot about recently has been just how much I love like songs and music. And so that has led me to think about musical instruments I would like to learn. And or my parents rather, had a piano sitting in their house. They got it when I was probably like 8 or 9. Well, and so they kind of deemed me at that point a little bit too old to like learn how to play. And I was like involved in other things anyway. I was kind of busy. But now when I go to their house and I look at it, it makes me think about how much I would love to know what that key means and why there are certain keys that go together, and music theory and everything like that. So piano, I know there's a lot of apps out there to learn different instruments. And I think there's a lot for piano too. And so I don't know how I'm gonna incorporate concierge into this. You know what? There's probably a lot of apps with built-in virtual concierges to navigate your musical experience. And I want to find one of those apps for piano. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Molly. Last chance for yes, no? Okay, no problem. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and close off table topics. All right, what I need to do is I need to call on our duty holders reports to find out how we did. Let's start with time. How did our contestants do on time tonight?
Yes,
All right, wonderful. Everyone is qualified on time. How did we do on word of the day, which was a challenge today for sure?
Everyone needs word of the day.
Amazing. All right, that means everybody is eligible for voting tonight. You've got the cups. No, you don't got the cups. Let's see, what are we gonna do? Yeah, tear off a piece of paper and
repeat.
I will certainly repeat. What we're gonna do is tear off a piece of paper. I'm gonna go over what everybody talked about. Write their name down and we'll go. Number one, the first one was the question about what did you learn last year? That was Justin. Second question was, does remote learning work? And what does it take to make it work well? That was Adelita. Third question would have been skill versus art. What's the difference? And you can learn a skill. Can you learn art? That was Dagan, D-A-G-A-N. And it looks like finally the last one was what you want to learn this year and why? And that was Molly. Please go ahead and write down all of your votes in Adelita's hands so that she can go. One other quick remark. They were talking about sleep and how important sleep is and the fact that he gets a nap right after work. So I get 8 hours of sleep and 8 hours of work. The fact that they happen to overlap about 5 hours, not a big deal. Sorry, that's always been one of my favorite jokes. I had to do it tonight for just that reason. That's going to do it for me. The next portion of our meeting is the evaluation portion. We need the general evaluator to come up and start with our general evaluation of the meeting. That's going to be Dagan Newland. Come on up, Dagan.
All right, as an evaluator meeting is my job to basically get my evaluation meeting, call upon the evaluator, but we're doing a round robin tonight, so we call on everybody, in this case, my evaluator. But normally we'd have an evaluator come up here and get a formal evaluation for the speaker. You know, he'll get timed as well. And also I call upon the duty holders to give their duty roles and what they saw during the meeting. So first, we're going to do a round robin for broad speech. So I'm going to go ahead and go first. Okay, since I'm up here. First of all, I thought it was a really great speech on sleeping. I did learn quite a few things, but when you said it was persuasive speech, I didn't really quite get what the persuasive part was. Overall, a great informational speech, and I really enjoyed what you had to say, and I did learn quite a few things. But other than that, that's what I had. Do you want to, Mark?
Definitely liked a lot of the content. There was frankly a lot of content that I had not heard of. So I thought that was a very, I think it was interesting and entertaining because it was information that I wanted to. I think I kind of agree that there might not have been a very strong call to action at the end, since it was a persuasive speech. But well prepared, on topic, kept on his outline, and with no noticeable use of notes at all. I thought it was a very nicely well-prepared speech.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, it was a pretty good speech. I really like the words. I wrote some down. Very good, prepared, structured, and I like. The only thing I would say, you know, over time, but besides that, great speech, bro.
John?
Well, I think it wasn't the same speech. I was That's all right. I can sing standing up, so it doesn't bother me. I was-
We still have a book for the rest of it three, so.
Yay. No, it was a very well organized speech. You guys had very good points, had a lot of good information for us. And I really forgot about the speech. Yeah, it really was persuaded.
Okay.
I was persuaded to be And so, but no, it was all good information. It was well prepared. It was well.
All right, Adelina, would you like to?
I was writing what I was gonna say. I think it was a great speech. I actually learned something out of it. Now I feel like, now that I guess I'm in that stage where I'm starting to get more naps in during the day. And I know why. But what would happen, and I'm even questioning myself, what would happen after that point? Let's say after you surpass age 90, do you still get more naps in, or what happens? That makes me wonder as well. Who knows? But that is why. Why did it? Basically, I'm still alive, but I hope to live as many years as she did and see what the world becomes. And it was great speech, great to know what I'm looking forward to.
Right, would either of the guests like to give their thoughts on Ross' speech? You don't have to, but ask him.
Nothing personal, but I thought it was great. I like the way your tone, voice tone, everything you say, I learned something. So that's good.
Yeah, I thought you like presented it really well. I guess in terms of like, I feel like I can see how you're trying to present information that you like were kind of trying to spit it in a way. So I can see where you're going with that. Yeah, I think it was about like call to action again. And I mean, I don't know that I like, sometimes like I feel like I get lost in general, but I think I think it was a great speech overall. So yeah.
All right. I want to touch on, you talk about naps. I feel like myself, I'm only 47. I feel like I need naps every now and then. But I do notice that when I get more like an hour worth of nap, I still feel tired after getting my nap. So if I keep like 45 minutes, an hour of nap, I feel good. But any more than that, I still feel tired when I wake up. So. All right, so we're gonna move on to my evaluation of the meeting. Then we'll go into the new voters. So my thoughts on the meeting, also we started a little late, but we were trying to figure things out, which ultimately we just had to go ahead and cancel the plan, just do an in-person meeting, but that's okay. I know we were trying to figure things out, but hopefully, we plan to stay a little bit afterwards and maybe try to figure out a little more. Hopefully, that way next time we'll be up and running and won't have to worry about running a little late. Overall, I think John had a pretty good thing about what we learned, or more like what he learned. I think it was a good opportunity, though, that when he said that what we learned, get an opportunity to ask us, you know, if we wanted to participate in that, and what do we learn? Well, that, and then the table topics, I think the table topic was really good. Had really great questions. I think everybody was able to answer. Now the word of the day, I think it was a little difficult to fit in there, but That's okay. I don't know if you knew the theme, table talks beforehand or not, but maybe in the future, if you can get that and maybe design a word around the theme, or if you don't know the theme, maybe pick a word that'd be more easier to put in, multiple situations. For that, I think they were really good and had a great speech from Rob, obviously, did a really good job in the round robins here. So we're gonna move on into the duty holders. So our first duty holder can be Justin, as you're married, can you give us your evaluation to me?
Yes, thank you, General Evaluator David. So everybody used the word of the day. That was great. A few things that I picked up that were pretty interesting. So John, during his topic time, he referred to the Ebola cruise. That was kind of interesting. Read people's expressions, even when they had their mask on. And then drinking urine cures health. That was the awesome thing right there, right? During Rob's speech, he said many pretty interesting things. As you get older, you produce less hormones, less melanin. I did not know that. Young people sleep, young people take deep naps, while people are older to 25%. That's a pretty interesting fact. Cyclical and symbiotic, also pretty interesting words. Sleep architecture, chronic pain, insomnia, RLS, restless leg syndrome, all pretty interesting. And during the table topics, I'm not gonna lie, I was too interested in making sure people got the word of the day right, so I didn't get anything from that. But overall, interesting meeting, great use of words, and no really bad grammar. So, thanks.
I'm gonna thank you over me and all Karen. Most of them did a really good job. I did hear and a couple of cells to meet John. Other than that, I think everybody's pretty clean. If you got some through, good for you. All right, so that's all I have. Like I said, that's what John was and then we went to the Boston Bell and Rob Giles.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Overall, I think we did a pretty good job. I didn't see a whole lot of distracting gestures or posture. There were a few things, and I'll note those. John noticed, and you may have heard that I rang the bell when he was leaning on the lectern, which in Toastmasters is a no-no. Although he did kind of exude kind of a casual and comfortable setting, which is good, especially for guests, so I will add that. John, when you were talking about the Ebola cruise, you made a grand gesture, the Ebola cruise. And so that added to the emphasis of what you were saying. I did a great job with that. Mark, when you were talking about copying paintings, you were having the hand gesture and hand motion to go along with that, so that was good. Justin, when you were up here during table topics, you added some good gestures. You talked about one laptop here, one laptop there, so we could visually see what you're talking about. Talked about putting your headphones on and showed that, and as well as the Bluetooth. So you added some great gestures to enhance your speech and table topics. Adelita, you were talking about Monday through Friday, and you moved your hands accordingly, so I thought that added as well. Molly, when you were up here, you were talking about having an app built in, and you kind of moved your hand out to kind of accentuate that, so I thought that was good. You did have one thing that I noticed when you were up here, and this is probably nerves being up the first time. You kind of had your leg out, kind of kicked up a little bit, your foot a little bit. So sometimes that can be a little distracting. So maybe if you come back and you have another opportunity, maybe think about that a little bit. Dagan, when you were up here during your table topics and a little bit during your general evaluation, most of the time your hands were here. You did have some gestures with it, but they didn't seem to fall down to your side. So what we call kind of the beach ball effect. Maybe keep your mind on that a little bit.
A little rusty.
Yeah, exactly. It's true, because we've been up virtual for so long. It's absolutely true. You did also, when you came up for general evaluation, you scratched your ear a little bit. I saw that as you came up. Not super distracting, but it goes there. And that is it. So overall, we did a pretty good job. A lot of great gestures that added to what we were trying to say. Not too much as far as distractions were concerned. Back to you, Mr. President.
Great report there, Rob. And now we'll vote for the best of the big three, which is going to be the Toastmasters, Don Vessels, Tabletop Masters, Mark Schroeder, or me, Dagan Newland, as the evaluator. And again, just tear off a little piece of paper from your agenda, write it down, and we will pass it over to Adelita. And I will call upon the presiding president, presiding officer tonight, will be Rob Giles, to perform the business section of the meeting. So, welcome, Rob Giles.
Thank you very much, Dagan. So our business portion meeting, one of the things that we do is we ask our guests a couple of questions. So putting you on the spot a little bit, and you can say no to this, that's totally fine. Nobody will look down on you. But a couple of the questions that we ask, one is, what brought you here to Toastmasters? What was the impetus behind you coming? And then the second question is, what did you think of the meeting? So I'm going to go through and ask Darlene first. And you can beg out of this, that's totally fine. But if you would let us know, so you can stay where you're sitting as well. Generally, we ask if you could stand up, that'd be good so we can hear you. But if you can tell us, one, what brought you here to Toastmasters? And two, what did you think of the meeting?
So English is my second language, and what brought me here, I heard word that this is a good experience to go through to enhance my English speaking, so that's why I'm here. I thought the meeting was fun. I got a little bit intimidated with the idea of answering questions on the spot. But overall, I think it's good, and I think I'm not.
Thank you so much, Darlene. Molly, can you tell us, you actually participated? So maybe that can add in, but what brought you here and what did you think about the meeting?
So what brought me there is that I kind of looking for a job right now, and I know that whatever work I'm in, I'm really going to need skills to be in front of people. And for a long time, I've really hard time with that. And I mean, it still intimidates me to say I can do it better than I used to, but I sometimes will still just like freeze up. It's like kind of an exciting. So that's something I'm looking to, I guess, manage maybe. So I don't know that there's really any totally getting rid of it, but I want to manage it, and I think this is the best method for that. So that's why I'm here. And what I do, I really like I think it was a little bit more informal, which I appreciate. Definitely structured, which is I think good, necessary for everything. And yeah, I don't know what it made me feel like more. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Molly. I'll say this, is that both of you, the things that you came tonight for, the reasons that you came, are things that Toastmasters can help you with. They can help you to fine tune your English through grammar, but as well as just osmosis and being around people that are speaking and trying to improve their public speaking. And then also, it's very helpful for work. It's very helpful for finding a job, having an interview and all those types of things. Interviews, Table Topics is a great way to prepare for that type of thing because you may not know a question or two that might come at you. So definitely Table Topic or Toastmasters in general can help both of you, I think. You know, whether you end up settling with us, find another club, whatever it might be. All clubs have different personalities. Ours is a very comfortable, and I find it, you know, it was definitely, for me, it was definitely scary. I sat back there in the corner when I came for the first 4 weeks, and eventually somebody walked over to me and said, "So are you gonna join?" And eventually I joined, and then as soon as I joined, I was up here on stage, and I was up here on stage for a minute for table topics. And this is pretty much what I said. And in my head, I had a lot of stuff going on, which was basically, the question was, what is your favorite restaurant? And it just, what's my favorite restaurant? I froze basically for a minute, and then I was able to get off stage. But just getting up here and facing that challenge was a big step. Walking through that door is a big step. I said in one of my previous meetings, getting out of your car once you pull into the parking lot is a big step. All of those, they may seem like little steps, and in the big picture, yeah, but they're big steps, especially at the beginning of your journey. So we appreciate you being here. We hope that you come back next week. We hope we get some people on Zoom as well and get that whole thing figured out. We're pretty encouraged by what we did learn and gain between last week and today. So we'll figure it out, and we'll get the meeting started earlier, on time, I should say, regardless. So a couple of other things that I wanted to go over was that we still have officers to get trained. We have a couple of TLI, Toastmasters Leadership Institute sessions that are going to be going on over the next month. So for officers who have not been trained, keep that in mind. We have contests coming up this spring, starting in the winter. We have the International Speech Contest, and we have the Evaluations Contest. As Dagan had mentioned, evaluations generally are specific, an evaluator to a prepared speaker. And most of the time we have at least two prepared speakers going on. So we have a little bit of a competition there as well. But the evaluations, there's a contest for that, and that's taking place this year. Anybody who's a paid member can participate in that. For an international speech, you have to be a paid member, but you also have to have given either 6 speeches from our old learning program or completed 2 of the first levels of your path in our Pathways education program. So for those people who might be interested or considering it, Justin and Lita, those are a couple of things they may want to consider. And Molly and Darlene, if you join, you would be immediately eligible for participating in the evaluation contest. As far as anything else, I don't know that we have any other business or news other than we're working on trying to improve. We have had a long time when we were just virtual, moving into the hybrid situation. We don't know that we're going to keep hybrid forever, but we want to at least get it down so that we have it kind of indefinitely to try to allow people to come online when they can't actually be here, especially during the time when we're experiencing COVID. Maybe you have COVID, but you can still function and you want to participate, and you can do that through our hybrid setting. John, Dagan, Mark, do you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Oh, sure. Just a quick one. One of the things we always say is that you don't get up here and apologize. You don't say, it's my first time, it's not going to be very good. Yeah, I've never done this before, bear with me. We say the only time that you're allowed to apologize is when you put people out. Whether it's room's too cold, or parking is bad, or tonight, we were running late. And we apologize for that. This is the first time that we've managed to put all the equipment in one place. We had a complete failure last week of the same sort of thing. We were trying a brand new overhead mic tonight, which, to be honest, that's part of the sound problem. It sounds really good. We had horrible recording last week. This week, the recording is great. We just can't get the sound in here at the same time. We had that last week. So worst case, the real problem is with these things, you don't get to pick the mic, it picks the mic. If we have to, we will put a PC on the frickin' table, and that will solve the problem, because then we got the dialogue to be able to select everything that we do not have on a phone or a tablet. So I think we have a solution. We've definitely got a mic that is working better than, I think we've got the best sound in here tonight that we've had. Much better. We did this during June and July as well. It was okay, but we only had 1 or 2 people at home. It was not perfect. This is, to me, is sounding a lot better. We'll keep at it. We'll get there.
Thank you so much, Mark. Very true words, true words. John, anything, Dagan, anything? Okay. So at this point, we voted on the 2 things that we could vote on, which was table topics and best of the big 3. Normally we would have a vote for the prepared speakers and also for the evaluators. But I'm going to ask for, and because we hadn't generally have a box, but we really, at some point, we thought we were only going to have 4 people here, so we didn't go and grab it. So we normally would have ribbons for the best speakers and stuff, and maybe Dagan or John might have a ribbon hanging around, I don't know. But Adelita, can you tell us who won best of the big 3 and also best table topic stuff?
Let's start out with the table topics. Justin. And for best 3, John.
Thank you very much, Adelita. Congratulations, Justin. Congratulations, John. At this point, I am going to call for an adjournment of our meeting. Thanks for everybody for coming out. Thanks for being so patient. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Well, if it's going to be anywhere, that's